Hey kiddos, it's Gaia from Hereford County Student Wellness Center, and today we're going to be putting a spin on the classic meal known as chicken nuggets. And today we'll be making chickpea nuggets. So before we get started today in the kitchen, be sure to grab an adult with you to help you out. Alright, so before we get started, we're just going to grab all of our materials. So today you'll need parchment paper, a can of chickpeas or garbanzo beans, panko or breadcrumbs, things to measure with, so like a half a cup and a teaspoon, a baking tray, salt, garlic powder, onion powder, rolled oats, 2 bowls and a whisk, and lastly, something to blend it, so a blender or a food processor. So first, we're gonna start by toasting our panko or our breadcrumbs. So we started by preheating our oven to 375 degrees. And while it's preheating, I'm going to take 1/2 cup of the panko. And spread it in an even layer on our baking tray that's been lined with parchment paper. So you're just gonna make sure it's nice and even. So we're going to toast this for about 3 minutes. We're gonna take it out of the oven and toss it around, and then we're gonna put it back in there. So I've just taken my baking tray out of the oven after the halfway mark, and we want to make sure that we retoss our breadcrumbs, and we're going to put these back into the oven. Now at this moment, they aren't looking as golden brown as we would like them to, so we just want to make sure that we watch the tray closely to avoid burning while we put them back into the oven. So after an additional 3 minutes in the oven, we took out our breadcrumbs, and you see they are a nice golden brown. So now we're just going to transfer it to a bowl and set aside to cool. As our breadcrumbs are cooling, we're going to end up processing our oats into wet flour. So you're going to grab your blender or food processor, and you're going to take 1/2 cup of old-fashioned oats and put it in your blender, and we're going to process it into a fine flour. So this is what your oats should look like after you have blended them into a fine like flour. So now we're going to set this aside into a bowl and move on to the next step. So now we're going to take our can of chickpeas and carefully open them. My can has a little nozzle where I can just flip the top, but if your can doesn't and you need a can opener, just be sure to grab an adult in order to help you. Once you've opened your can of chickpeas, now we're going to just drain the liquid into a separate bowl. So after you pour out your liquid, we're going to save 1/4 cup of it. We're going to set it aside, and we're going to also set aside our chickpeas. So now we're going to make our dough-like mixture for our chickpeas. So now we're going to take our can of chickpeas, put it in our blender. We're going to take a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt, and blend it all together. Alrighty, so you want to pulse your mixture until it's crumbly and just like dough-like, so you can end up moving it around in your hand. So this will end up helping with the texture when we end up forming our chickpeas nuggets. So now we're going to take 1/4 of a cup of the chickpea liquid that we saved from earlier and whisk it until it becomes foamy. So this is what your mixture should look like after you have whisked it. It should be nice and foamy. So now we're going to end up taking 1/2 cup of the oat flour that we had created and adding it to our blender. And then we're going to take our foamy chickpea liquid and add it to the blender as well. We're going to pulse this and blend it until the mixture is fully combined and is dough-like. And if your mixture ends up becoming loose, then you can just add extra oat flour. So after you've mixed everything together, it should appear like this. And as I said before, it should be dough-like. So now we're going to take our dough-like mixture and form the actual nuggets. So I've already made a couple here, but I'm going to show how I've been making them on screen. So as an aside, I usually like to have some flour set aside just so I can put it on my hand so that my hands don't become all sticky when I am forming the chickpea nugget. So I'm gonna take some dough, put it on my hand, just rub it in there. And I'm going to take some of my batter, just dip my hand in there and get a good amount. And I'm going to want to try and pat them into rectangles that are about 1/3 inch thick. And I'm going to want to lay them on my parchment paper. And as it's being laid down, just smooth out the edges to try and give it that chickpea nugget look. Now it's okay if it's not perfect. Now we're going to cover our chickpea nuggets in our breadcrumbs. So one at a time, we're going to take our nugget, and I like to use a spoon just to help me lift it off of the parchment paper. So we're going to take our nugget, and we're going to take our breadcrumbs that we had set aside to cool, and we're just going to roll it in our breadcrumbs. And having a spoon really helps for this part. So just making sure everything is covered, just rolling it around, and also to make them stick, just gently press your breadcrumbs onto your nugget. And here we have a nugget. So now we're just gonna repeat this process for the rest of our chickpea nuggets. So after we've covered our nuggets and our breadcrumbs, now we're going to take our baking tray and bake them for 15 to 20 minutes in our oven that is also still set to 375 degrees. So we want to make sure we bake them until crispy.
And here we have our finished product, our wonderful chickpea nuggets. And what you can also do is to serve them with your favorite dipping sauce. I have some barbecue sauce with me. Thank you so much for joining me on this snack demo today. In the comments below, just let me know how you guys enjoy this. Thanks, bye.